It was the ship beginning to go down by the bow. Over a period of time, maybe hours, progressively going down and down. And then suddenly, when it all happened, it would go very quickly.
With the bow flooded, the hatches were vulnerable. In the early morning hours of the 10th of September, the first hatch cover suddenly buckled. 10,000 tons of water flooded the first hold, dragging the bow deeper into the oncoming waves. 30 seconds later, hatch cover number 2 collapsed. Then hatch cover number 3. The Derbyshire was twisted and torn to pieces by the water pressure before she ever hit the bottom. It took almost 20 years to learn what had really happened to the Derbyshire that night. It wasn't a rogue wave, or structural failure, or crew error. In the end, 12 small holes sealed her fate. None of those who played a role in solving the mystery will ever forget the Derbyshire.
The abiding memory I will have with me for the rest of my life, that I could have been there. Fate decided that I wasn't going to be, but whatever, they were so professional, those seafarers. It would have been unfair if we never discovered the truth.
We've proved that there's no hiding place anymore, that wherever the ship is lost, we can go and find it, and we can find out what happened to it.
Iron ore cargo from MV Derbyshire. And I actually carry this in my briefcase. It means a great deal from the point of view it's the only thing that left, other than the images, that it remains on the surface. And I don't think I could ever let it, I don't think I could let it sort of go away.
But more than anything, it was the perseverance of the crew's families that drove the investigation. What Prime Minister Tony Blair called one of the century's greatest feats of underwater detective work.
All I can do is look at a picture of my brother with the realization I'm never going to see him again. Bulk carriers are still sinking. They really haven't learned a lesson from the Derbyshire. So I haven't got peace of mind, because there's going to be more mothers, wives, children crying for their loved ones because they're being lost at sea.
80% of the world's trade is still done by sea. And every 2 months, somewhere on the world's oceans, another bulk carrier is lost. Crews like that of the Derbyshire, who never come home. of September 1980. After 2 uneventful months at sea, the Derbyshire and her crew were just a few days from safe harbor in Japan. But the weather suddenly took a turn for the worse. A storm warning came in from Tokyo. An ugly weather system was developing to the south, and it showed all the signs of turning into a typhoon.
This massive thing that is sitting there and is coming towards you.
Robin Williams was one of the key investigators who would help unravel the mystery of what happened to the Derbyshire.
typhoons are monster weather systems, 500 miles across. It doesn't creep up on you in the dead of night. It's not like that. It's there on the horizon, and you know it's there.
21 hours later, just after midnight, the tropical storm had just been upgraded and was given a name, Typhoon Orchid. It was headed straight for the Derbyshire. More than 300 kilometers from the center of the storm, the massive ship was outside the danger zone, but not far enough to escape the ferocious winds and seas.
What's it like to be that close to a typhoon? You get spume coming off the swell tops, you get horizontal rain.
Nigel Malpas, former chief officer of the Derbyshire and perhaps the luckiest man alive. He was supposed to have been there with his crewmates on the Derbyshire's last fatal voyage. By a quirk of fate, the orders never reached him. But just a year before, Malpas had sailed her on the same route. Through the seas, sailors called Typhoon Alley.
We would see green.
Nearly 3 times the length of a football pitch and as wide as a 6-lane motorway. The Derbyshire was one of the biggest ships ever built, and she should have been unsinkable. But in September 1980, suddenly, violently, the Derbyshire vanished without a trace, and with her, all 44 people on board. For years, the cause of the tragedy remained a mystery, until a team of experts, armed with the latest in ocean exploration equipment, set out on a voyage of discovery, determined to find out what had sunk the biggest British merchant ship ever lost at sea. The 11th of July 1980, Sept-Îles, Quebec. 42 crewmen and 2 wives on board. This would be home for the next 2 months. Peter Lambert of Liverpool had been crewing bulk carriers for 2 years. He first went to sea at the age of 17. He could not have known that this would be his last voyage. Captain Geoffrey Underhill plotted the course. Across the Atlantic Ocean, around the bottom of Africa, over the East China Sea, and finally to the coast of Japan. But they would never reach their destination. The voyage would end in one of the most mysterious disasters in seafaring history. The conveyor belts had been running night and day for 36 hours, feeding the cavernous belly of the Derbyshire. She was one of the newest and largest ships in the British Merchant Marine Fleet. 21 stories from the engine room to the top of the bridge, 300 meters long. So vast, the captain needed binoculars to see what was happening on the bow. She had 9 cargo hatch covers, each the size of a tennis court and weighing 30 tons. Once loaded, she'd be carrying 157,000 tons of iron ore, this time bound for a steel mill in Japan. The crew prepared the Derbyshire to sail.